Welcome to this month's presentation. Don't miss out on any of our club updates or exciting content. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. By joining our online communities, you'll stay informed about upcoming events, technical tips, and club news. Check out our website for more details. Subscribe and follow today so you never miss a moment of our growing amateur radio adventures. Now, back to our program.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Great job introducing everything. This is WB8FVB, Rick in Bay City, and I'll be doing a short presentation tonight on Emergency Communications 101. We appreciate everybody that's joining us here for TechNet number 24. So why are we doing this? Most of you probably already know that in our bylaws for the Crossroads Ham Radio Club, in Article 1, Section 2, it specifically says the CRHRC and its members shall voluntarily furnish, when possible, skill and equipment to enable its networks to be ready and available to provide emergency and disaster communications as a public service, benefiting the public welfare of our communities. So that's part of our commitment in the bylaws. We want to talk about it, make sure everybody's aware of that commitment and what we can do to get ready to fulfill that responsibility. So most of you have either been involved in emergency communications or interested in getting involved in emergency communications. So if you have a nice, good-looking go box like this one or other portable equipment and know how to operate it, isn't that all you really need for emergency communications? This is actually the go box we use here in Matagorda County when we go down to the sheriff's office. We have an installed VHF antenna, soon to be a VHF-UHF antenna at the Emergency Operations Center, which is at the sheriff's department. So we grab this box, go down there. We have a generator capability there for backup power, and as I said, we have an installed generator, so it makes for a quick installation to get up and running there at the Matagorda County EOC. So you do need a little more than a go box and ability to get out quickly and help out. You do need to know a little bit about the organizational aspects of emergency communications. Since 9/11 and the resulting formation of Homeland Security, the face of emergency communication has changed pretty dramatically. And I know most of you know that, but it's important to emphasize the formality of what we need to do now as far as operating with our served agencies such as local law enforcement, Red Cross, or other local organizations, disaster relief organizations that may need emergency backup communications. So gone are the days of ham radio operators showing up at the EOC in times of disaster with no previous training or knowledge of command and control. There are letters of agreement and other pre-planned steps required to maintain the credibility of our amateur radio organizational involvement in emergency or disaster activities. What you can do to get started is familiarize yourself with sanctioned amateur radio emergency communications organizations. Find a club like the CRHRC or your other local radio clubs that provide training, or you can study on your own to complete prerequisites required by your served agency. And I know in some places you have to certainly have FEMA training, the basic fundamental courses to be able to get access to the facilities. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. It's easy for you to understand the National Incident Management System and Incident Command System because there's a lot of online training at the FEMA websites, and I've provided the links for you there so you can go look at the training. And we'll be happy to help you with any of this. It can be a little tough to get started if you're not familiar with it. So there's two primary amateur radio groups in Texas which are recognized by state, county, and local agencies. Those two groups are Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, RACES, and Amateur Radio Emergency Services, ARES. We're going to talk a little bit about the background of this, what the expectations are for those organizations, and how to become a member of those organizations. So as you can see here, RACES was authorized by the Federal Communications Commission to organize and employ radio amateurs to supplement state and local government communication systems during emergencies or disaster operations. The FCC advocates the principle that a fundamental basis and purpose of the amateur radio is to provide voluntary, non-commercial emergency communications to the public. And I emphasize the voluntary, non-commercial emergency communications to the public. Amateur radio operators are often needed to assist in communications during an emergency. Second organization, ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Service, is sponsored by the ARRL. You do not have to be a member of the ARRL to be a member of ARES. That's an important point. You do have to be a member of the ARRL if you want to be an emergency coordinator or other higher level emergency response person in the organization. But for a basic ARES membership, you do not have to be a member of the ARRL. So the ARRL sponsors ARES. That is also is called out in Part 97 of the FCC rules and exists for the purpose of providing supplemental communications for the public, government, and nonprofit organizations involved in emergency and disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. Now that you know about the two organizations, two fundamental, and there are other organizations. There's Oxcom organization. I don't know much about that one. We may hear some discussion of that in the question and answer section. But there are some other organizations out there, but I wanted to identify the primary two since we have some limited time here tonight to do the introduction to this. You can get involved, participate in local or state nets. In fact, the state ARES net is going on as we speak on 3871 tonight, 3.871 megahertz. You can participate in nets such as that. There are a lot of repeater nets. We're going to talk about one that's actually on the Crossroads system that just started up last month. Familiarize yourself with applicable emergency communications plans. I've provided a link there to the actual South Texas ARES communication plan. Familiarize yourself with those, and if you become a RACES member, you'll receive the standard operating procedures for RACES and be able to familiarize yourself with those. Talk briefly about requirements for membership for the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service. It's pretty easy to apply for membership. We'll have the links in the reference section in the last slide in the presentation here. You can go right to that link, get the application. One of the big things here I want to emphasize is the Texas Department of Emergency Management, TDEM, requires RACES operators to pass a DPS background check as part of the accreditation process. And that's because, as we said at the outset of the presentation, post 9/11, things have changed a lot, and they want to make sure they know who is coming into the emergency facilities. So as part of your application for RACES, you fill out a RACES application. You also fill out or sign a background check document to get that started. So here are what the RACES districts look like. District 17 covers Victoria County and several other surrounding counties. And we have actually one of the RACES counties liaisons on here with us tonight. So any RACES questions that come up, I'm sure he'll be able to field those in a little bit at the end of the presentation. And Houston is in District 16. And I've got a couple more slides on these just to familiarize yourself. Each district has a district radio officer. That's who you apply with for your membership. Send your membership application to your district radio officer. And here's what District 16 looks like for the Houston area. It's actually broken down into 4 sub-districts, and you can look at the counties and the boxes there at the bottom of the page and figure out which district radio officer you need to apply with for your membership. And just as a side note, keep this slide handy because I had a tough time finding this information. I finally wrote to the District 16 regional radio officer and then got in contact with District 16C also. So it's good information here. It's not readily available on a website that I could find. Now, on the other hand, District 17 has a great website. Noel, KD5PMU, is the district radio officer for District 17. You can see the counties that covers, Victoria and surrounding counties. And on that website, you'll see some familiar faces of Crossroads members who are county liaison officers. So just want to whet your appetite to go to that link and check out that nice District 17 website for races. For airwaves, as I said earlier, you do not have to be a member of the ARL. You just go to the South Texas Depot website, and the registration form is there, and you can fill that out, submit it, and then the district emergency coordinator will approve that and send it on. The only real requirement for airwaves is you have to be a licensed radio amateur for membership, as it says here. This is what the airwaves districts look like in Matagorda County, Lavaca County, Victoria County. We're all in District 10. And then Houston is District 14, and surrounding counties are District 1. Now we'll go through a real quick example. This is WB8FVB with TechNet number 24 on the Crossroads Ham Radio Club repeater system. So this is what things looked like on July 8th, 2024 when Hurricane Beryl was making landfall in Matagorda County. You can see the eye coming right over Matagorda. The Matagorda Bay system is where the eye was coming ashore. And to the east of us, as most of you know, Houston and Galveston, Harris counties, Galveston County, Brazoria County also were very heavily affected by Beryl. Sargent, Texas, which is in the southeasternmost part of Matagorda County, was pretty well devastated with a lot of tree damage and structural damage to some extent. Caused a pretty major communications outage here in Matagorda County. Lost a couple of cell towers, lost the internet, public service communications, law enforcement communications were not working that morning. We were fortunate here in Matagorda County. We've had amateur radio incorporated into the Matagorda County Emergency Plan for many years. We're kind of a special case because we have the nuclear plant, South Texas Electric Generating Station. I better get this right since I worked there for 35 years. Has a requirement to do annual exercises that are graded by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, also by FEMA every couple of years. So we've been participating in that regularly, so we've been part of the EOC, had the training to get into the EOC and the antenna installed and everything that I mentioned earlier. We do renew a letter of agreement with Matagorda County under areas each year that's part of the county emergency plan. So when Hurricane Beryl made landfall, we were ready to activate. In fact, we've been having Zoom meetings with county emergency management status updates. We were supposed to have one that morning on July 8th, but there was none because there were no communications. I grabbed the go box, got in my truck, started down the street, and there was a tree across the street. Myself and a couple neighbors managed to cut enough of the tree out of the way to get a vehicle past. So we were able to get to the EOC, and that's when we got a full status of the communications outage. It was pretty shocking. 911 was out, and they had to divert those calls to Colorado County, I think is where they ended up diverting the 911 call system to. So it was pretty quiet there in the EOC as far as communications. So we use our installed VHF antenna and the portable equipment I talked about to contact stations and Sargent, and that was a critical thing. They set up a EOC down there at the Sargent Voluntary Fire Department. We were able to communicate directly with that, get a good status for the sheriff, talking to some of his people down there in Sargent, so they were able to sort through what was really going on. It included the comments that were made later after the fact when Ted Cruz came down to check on status, help where he could as far as bringing in the right resources. And you can see the sheriff's quote there that ham radios were the only open line of communications post-impact for Beryl. Okay, so that's just one example of what you can do when you're set up, you've made plans, people at the county know you and what you're capable of. And I appreciate Noel there at KD5PMU, District Radio Officer 17, getting permission to hold a monthly net on the Crossroads system. Directors of the Crossroads system approved that, and that net is being held on the second Wednesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. on a portion of the CRHRC repeaters, which are in the designated MCOM portion of the system. So those repeaters are listed, and I know a few others have requested to join that net from other repeaters around the Crossroads system. So that net will be growing, I'm sure. Any RACES or ARES members are invited to check in the net, along with any interested licensed hams who are currently not members of RACES or ARES but are interested in emergency communications. This is WB8FVB and TechNet 24 on the Crossroads ham radio system repeaters, continuing with the MCOM 101 presentation. So some of the takeaways I want you to get from this and spawn some questions, hopefully. Emergency communications is serious business. Information must be transmitted concisely and accurately to maintain credibility with our served agencies, whether that's law enforcement, Red Cross, or other disaster response organizations. It's important, don't ad-lib, don't add anything, and there's always a public information officer somewhere in the organization, the command and control system, that takes care of notifying the public and answering questions from the media and things like that. So please don't. That's one thing you need to understand, is you don't communicate outside the EOC to other folks when there's breaking information. As we talked about, training is a key element of becoming an effective emergency communicator. Practice and understand the organizational aspects of emergency communication. Becoming a member of a recognized emergency assistance organization like RACES or ARES assures you receive training and keep your skills current through drills, exercises, or other practice. And there is a commitment with being an emergency coordinator, or emergency communicator. There's a commitment with that to fulfill your responsibility. You need to be there when they need you, So keep that in mind before you sign up for it. Preparation is key when a hurricane is making landfall, as we experienced with Hurricane Beryl and Hurricane Harvey before that. It's too late to figure out what you should be doing when the hurricane's making landfall.
I want to take a short break to remind you of the great items available at the CRHRC merchandise store. Show your club pride by purchasing club-branded merchandise. Go to www.crhrc.org/merch. There is also a link in the description below.
Just put in some food for thought here for what you might like to see next related to MCOM training or information. And there's several things there that may get you thinking about future presentations. And some of you are probably experienced enough, you may want to take one of these on. I provided what I thought were some good references here just to help you get started. As I said, the RACES application form and the RACES applicant criminal history disqualifier form links are there, along with the ARES new member registration for South Texas. There's a link to the Harris County ARES Field Operations Manual. Obviously, Harris County has a very strong ARES organization and a lot of good information posted about that. We appreciate your attention. I think that brings us to the end of the formal presentation. Now we'll get into the real fun part. This is WB8FVB, turning it back to Mike.
All right, this is Mike, KB9MEQ, on the W5LCR repeater system with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly TechNet session. We'd like to give a big thanks to Rick, WB8FVB. Very informative, great information. You know, sometimes we don't think about it, but amateur radio truly does support our communities in the time of need. So great information and very timely. So thanks, Rick. Great job. At this time, we're going to open the net for any tech questions or comments specific to tonight's presentation. We'll take a few call signs at a time and then call on each of you for your questions or comments. Anyone with questions or comments regarding the presentation, please give your call sign, followed by your name, slowly and phonetically.
Whiskey 5, India, Tango, Zulu, W5ITZ.
Whiskey 5, Golf Hotel Romeo, Whiskey 5, Golf Hotel Romeo, Brian.
All right, why don't we start with Bill, W5ITZ. What is your question tonight, sir?
And this is
W5ITZ. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, this question is directed towards Rick. Rick, great job on the presentation. A question that I hear quite a bit is when you're involved in emergency communications, how do you know when is the right time to deploy and where to deploy to? Can you address that for us, please?
Yes, Bill, WB8FVB. As far as ARES refers to it as activation, the Amateur Radio Emergency Service refers to it as activation, and you should normally only do that with the approval of your county emergency coordinator. So if you're in ARES, contact your county emergency coordinator, or he or she will contact you and let you know it is time to deploy. And I think the RACES structure is pretty much the same, that you listen to your county liaison or your district radio officer, and they will tell you when you need to deploy.
Thank you, sir. W5ITZ.
All right, net control to W5GHR. Brian, go ahead with your question, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. At the beginning of it, you said it's entirely voluntary, and then at the end, you made a statement that if you do join, it sounded like you're obligated to deploy if there is a situation that you do. It almost sounds like it becomes non-voluntary at that point. Can you speak more to that? Did I hear that right, or is it just you're expected to if you join? If you could speak a little bit to that again. This is Brian, W5GHR.
Thank you, Brian. This is WB8FVB, Rick, and I will do my best to answer that question. Thank you for pointing out the seeming disparity in my presentation. I love that. First of all, nobody's going to expect you to get in harm's way, so if there is a Category 5 hurricane coming towards your county or other, wildfire towards your house, whatever the disaster situation might be, they're not going to expect you to put yourself in harm's way. So what I really meant at the end of the presentation was you really need to, if you make the commitment to a county or other served agency, that you're going to provide backup communications. If there's no good reason for you not to be there, like on the morning of Hurricane Beryl, there was no good reason why I couldn't get down to the county EOC and provide that support along with other hams in the county. So if at all possible, you need to be there when you made the commitment. No one will expect you to be in harm's way. Nobody's going to criticize you if you evacuate with your family and then come back at the earliest opportunity once you have an all clear to enter the county. In fact, we used to issue little tags so hams had a way to get back into the county after a storm. So hope that answered your question, Brian.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, that answers my question, and that's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to clarify. Back to you, Net Control. This is W5GHR.
Very good. This is Mike, KB9MEQ on the W5LCR repeater system with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly TechNet session. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the presentation? If so, please give your call sign followed by your name slowly and phonetically, and Net Control will recognize you now.
Whiskey 5, Delta November Lima. Whiskey 5, Delta November Lima. Daniel.
Kilo 5,
Kilo Juliet 5, Alpha Delta Oscar. Kilo Juliet 5, Alpha Delta Oscar. Brenda.
Brenda, we got you in there with the other station. Please come again.
Whiskey 5, Delta November Lima. Daniel.
Was there a K5 station in there?
Kilo India 5, Romeo Sierra Romeo, CRHRC. My handle is Rick, and I'm down in Kingsville.
All right, why don't we hold it there? W5DNL, Daniel, go ahead with your question, sir.
Yes, my question is, if you get deployed or have an activation, exactly what do you actually go out and do? Do you stay at your house and just help relay traffic, or do you go to the EOC, or go to some specified point, or exactly what are you going to be doing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Daniel. And in the case of Aries, your emergency coordinator will tell you where to deploy. It might be to a Red Cross shelter, for example. It might be to the county EOC or some other served agency location. But your county EOC should tell you that, and on the RACI side, it'll be a similar organizational assignment for you to go to a specified place if you're activated.
And I assume that's based on what your capabilities are.
That's correct. And in both cases, when you fill out your RACI's application or your Aries application, they will ask you what your technical capabilities are, what radios you have, backup power, all those sorts of things go in those applications, so that they have a pretty good idea who they need to call on for the specified need.
Thank you. W5DNL.
All right, and just as an aside, in Galveston County, our emergency comms group actually, we deploy into the county EOC, but we then are also embedded into some of the local EOCs, like League City, for example. We have people that embed in there too, to provide sort of a linked communication network. All right, KJ5ADO. KJ5ADO, Brenda, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. I guess Rick kind of answered my question, but I was thinking for someone that's just getting into this and maybe they don't have a Go box, can they still participate and be able to use their skills? But I guess, the EOC will know, or the agency will know what kind of radios they have. Can you answer that, please?
Yes, I didn't mean to imply that you need to have a Go box or any special equipment to sign up for areas or races. The organizations have plenty of equipment usually. In fact, Texas Department of Emergency Management has Go boxes that they can deploy in a major disaster situation. So there's equipment out there. Don't be shy, and don't not fill out your registration forms just because you don't think you have equipment that would stand the test. We will find the equipment for you. This is WB8FVB, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Brenda for all her help and all she does to keep the TechNet going. Thank you, Brenda.
All right. KI5RSR. KI5RSR. Rick, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, yes, sir. This really ain't a question. It's just a comment. Kilo India 5 Romeo, Sierra Romeo. I'm a first responder. I'm a police officer. And the few of us that are hams we not really joining areas or races, because if something's coming our way, we're going to be on recall, and which means we're going to be activated and for the storm. But we're still trying. We're still trying to get more people involved on the first responder side. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Kilo India 5 Romeo, Sierra Romeo. Back to net control.
Thanks, Rick. Great comment. Totally understand. The first responders are the first line, right? So thanks for your comment, sir. All right, this is Mike, KB9MEQ, with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly TechNet session. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the presentation? If so, please give your call sign followed by your name slowly and phonetically.
Whiskey Echo 5 Delta India Charlie West.
Kilo 5 Lima Kilo, Bill. Kilo India 5 Uniform Lima Lima, Orlando.
Why don't we start with WE5DIC? Wes, go ahead.
Good evening. This is WE5DIC. Thank you for all the information, Rick. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to what the training entails for each organization.
Thank you, Les. Great question. This is WB8FVB. The best place I think to start out that's pretty much generic across all organizations is the FEMA training. And there's like 4 basic courses, and I should have had those up in front of me here. But we'll get that information out to you. It starts with a 100 course, ICS 100 I think is the number. And there's 3 other basic courses. And these all deal with the organizational structure, command and control of incident response, incident command system they call it. So I would recommend you start with that FEMA training. You need to get a student ID first from FEMA. It's pretty easy. You sign up online, get the student ID, then you can sign up for the courses. You go through the courses, the online courses, then you take an exam at the end. You get a certificate, and that certificate is the proof that you've taken the course and is recognized by all the agencies, including TDM. And the way it works now is you can upload that certificate to a TDM website, and I think I provided the link in the reference pages. And Les, if you have questions, we'll be happy to help you with that. But that's fundamentally the process to get started with the command and control training. And, of course, then amateur radio organizations have other training for emergency communications. Some of them do it on their local networks, and some of them do it in classroom sessions or online training also. But once you get those kinds of credentials, then you're pretty well set to go.
All right, thank you very much, Rick. This is WE5DIC.
Okay, real quick, Mike.
All right, thank you, Rick and Rick. And just a little public service announcement. I know all the folks are going to run out tonight and start signing up and taking those ICS courses, but they're down right now due to the government shutdown. So from what I understand, those are on hold until the government shutdown wraps up, then they'll come back up online. So let's see where we at. K5LK. Bill, number 9. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mike and Rick. Great presentation. A lot of good information in here, good discussion. Just a general comment about ham radio and barrel. See what your thoughts are, Rick. I was somewhat shocked about the number of repeaters that were stayed up during barrel. You know, barrel came through Matagorda Bay and then came up toward west of Houston, Katy, on up to Kingwood. You know, I was one of those silly guys that stayed up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning as barrels coming through, and a bunch of repeaters, including the Crossroads Network, were still up and running. So I think that was a big plus for ham radio. Your thoughts, Rick? Back to you, K5LK.
At WB at FEB, thanks, Bill. Appreciate that comment. I did have in my notes, I didn't really mention it, but the Matagorda County repeaters, the VHF and UHF repeaters, stayed up on generator power through the storm, which helped us immensely. We could have done simplex communications, but having the repeaters available was a big plus. And we actually used the Crossroads system. We've got the beam down there at Sheriff's Office pointed towards Louise, so we can get into the Crossroads system from there nicely. Should the Matagorda County repeaters be down, then we still have communications outside the county. I want to add one more thing about that Rick down there, KI5RSR, mentioned about first responders. Most of you probably know that Texas Department of Emergency Management now has assigned county liaison officers. These are actually TDM employees in each county, and some of those are interested in becoming licensed amateur radio operators. We've got a couple of them in the counties here that are interested, adjacent to Matagorda County. So that's a strong resource for us to work with those county liaison officers. For folks out there that haven't met your county liaison officer, I encourage you to do that. But yeah, Bill, the repeaters were a big plus and shows the strength of the system and having repeaters on emergency power and that sort of thing. WB at FEB.
All right. Great conversation there. Let's move to KI5ULL, Orlando. Go ahead with your question.
Good evening. This is KI5ULL, Orlando on Lake Houston. I just want to pick up where Bill left off when Hurricane Beryl came through. I recently reached out to AC5QX to gain permission to use cross-band repeating on his repeater, and he denied access and said that I needed to request permission through the Crossroads group. And my reason for bringing this up is that when Beryl came through, immediately I was out in the field with a chainsaw, cutting debris, cutting trees that had fallen in the street, removing debris, and had my HT on me. I normally cannot connect to the AC5QX from my location with my HT. It would have to go through my home base, which would be running on natural gas with a generator. So how do we go about getting permission to test this equipment in a non-emergency situation to make sure that we have our crossband repeaters functioning correctly and everything's ready to go when an emergency comes? Back to net.
I think I'll defer that question.
Bill, do you guys want to try to take that question? I'm not sure where to point that. Maybe more of a crossroads type question.
Yeah, let's defer to W5ITZ if he doesn't mind.
Yeah, W5ITZ. I'll be happy to take that one. Orlando, I'd recommend drafting up a little email to info@CRHRC. Let us know what you would like to test and kind of the configuration of how you'd like to see the network. We'll get in touch with you, and we'll see if we can create a test that will accommodate that. Would that work for you?
Roger. As long as I can test the equipment and make sure the equipment's working on a periodic basis, I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Okay, very good. Yeah, like I say, just draft up your thoughts and how you'd like to see the configuration or the test go, and we'll work with you one-on-one and see if we can make that happen. W5ITZ, back to net control.
Very good, very good. And then it looks like we've got a question in the Zoom from Gary, N5GBR. The question is, please ask Rick what the meeting training load is generally between the organizations. I assume that's RACES and ARES.
I don't think I understood that question. Can I hear it again?
Yeah, I think the question was they're asking about what is sort of the training load or, number of trainings you have to go to a month or a year, trainings and meetings for those organizations.
I can't speak that much to RACES. I know there is a minimum participation requirement, and I know we have Jose at KB5GL there on the Zoom who is RACES. He may be able to answer that question for us for RACES. I will just make a general comment. None of the organizations have overbearing training requirements from my experience. I actually used to be the Matagorda County RACES guy way back, and then I got out of RACES. I'm in the process of getting back into it now. Just because we sit beside the TDM guys in our county EOC, and that gives you, more credibility with the TDM folks. And some of those are RACES hams also. That's one of the things we learned during Beryl. But anyway, take the FEMA training, participate in your local groups, make sure you understand what each group expects, because each group, each served agency can be a little bit different. As I said, we're different in Matagorda County here because of the annual drills for the nuclear plant. That kind of kicks us up a notch. We have evaluated exercises with FEMA watching what we do, so it's different for each organization. And Mike, you have experience in Galveston. You might speak to that also.
Yeah, we meet. We have a net once a week. We have a meeting once a month, and we have a training typically on like a Saturday morning, like either a WinLink training or a Simplex training, or some kind of training that will help the group and help new people get up to speed. Hopefully, Gary, that answered your question. If it did not, please pop another note in the chat. Thanks. KB9MEQ. Any other questions on the presentation? Please give your call sign followed by your name slowly and phonetically, and that control will recognize you. All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the net for any amateur radio-related questions. We'll take a few call signs at a time and then call on each of you for your questions. Anyone with tech-related questions, call now, slowly and phonetically.
Whiskey 5 Bravo Sierra Alpha. Whiskey 5 Bravo Sierra Alpha with the question.
Go ahead, station. Was that Whiskey 5 Bravo Sierra Alpha? Go ahead.
Good evening. Name here is Joe, and really enjoying tonight's TechNet. My question revolves: where does the financing come from? Who decides what the technical needs are in the entire INCOM system? For example, one of the things that I've understood that we really want to grow is WinLink. So, and that's one of the things that's missing in some areas is a dependable WinLink system. So who puts all that together, the ideas, the equipment needed, and then comes up with the money to make it happen?
Okay. Thanks for that, Joe. That's a good question. And with my experience, well, certainly there are grants out there, as we know, with Crossroads Ham Radio Club, where you can get grants for those types of things. But my experience is the local ham radio organizations identify what they need. If we want to put up a WinLink node, the organization identifies that, gathers the money and resources, and establishes it, much like we do at the Crossroads repeater system or the local repeater system here in Matagorda County.
Is there a team that really concentrates on where the need is, where those nodes are needed, and then starts looking to make it happen, or where does the planning take place, and who identifies the need and then brings it to whatever group with the plan to get more WinLink stations or whatever the need is on the air?
Yeah, I think the communications plans are where that would happen. And if you look at that Aries communication plan that I provided a link to, it has an extensive list of WinLink stations, WinLink nodes in there. And so the Aries organization would identify, hey, there's a hole here where we need another WinLink node, and then decide where they're going to get the resources to do that. And I hope that helps, Joe, but I think that's the best answer I can give. You might talk to some of the Harris County Aries guys about that work down at the TransStar EOC place. They know it all.
Okay, many thanks. Appreciate it. Back to you guys, W5BSA.
Very good. Just following up, this is Mike, KB9MEQ, with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's TechNet 24. we're opening up any more questions. Last call for questions on the RF side here. We'll open up Zoom in just a few minutes, but any more questions on the RF side here? Anyone with tech-related questions, call now, slowly and phonetically. All right, I want to thank everyone who participated in tonight's TechNet 24. Also, we want to give a big thanks to all the TechNet team members who helped in making tonight's net a success. If you have any questions regarding the TechNet or you'd like to join the TechNet team, you can send an email to info@CRHRC.org. That's info@CRHRC.org. Again, please note that many of us will remain in the Zoom session for a general rag chew. I will now close the RF session of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly TechNet. This is Mike, KB9MEQ, returning the repeaters back to normal amateur radio use. 7-3 and good night all.
You have been listening to a TechNet presentation of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club. For more information on this club, go to www.crhrc.org. For information on upcoming TechNets, go to technet.crhrc.org.